Hey friends, it's Mr. Chris. How are you? It's cloudy, foggy day, right? We're going to talk about the weather today. And I have a book that I used to like to read when I was a kid, and it's been around. Maybe you watched the movie. It's called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Look, there's a meatball. It's raining meatballs. Isn't that crazy? You maybe watched the movie, but this is actually the book. And it's written by Judy Barrett and drawn by Ron Barrett. And look, it's raining meatballs. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Usually it's cloudy with a chance of rain, right? We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Oh, yeah, pancakes. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. How many pancakes do you think you can eat? There they are in the kitchen. Do you like making breakfast sometimes? Yeah, my son likes to make breakfast for us sometimes when he wants to cook, when it's your day to cook. Maybe you could help make breakfast. How many pancakes do you think you could eat? Oh my God, that's a lot of pancakes. Seconds later, something flew through the air and headed towards the kitchen's flew through the air, headed towards the kitchen ceiling. What the world? And landed right on Henry. I think it's a pancake on his head. Look at the cat and the dog. They're tearing through the kitchen. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed. Even Grandpa laughed. Breakfast continued quietly, quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan. Whew. And all of them were eaten. Even the one that landed on Henry. If the pancake landed on your head, would you eat it? I would. I eat it right off my head. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. Oh, Chew and Swallow. That's a lot of oceans and a lot of deserts. My grandpa's telling this tall tale. I like when Grandpa tells tall tales. You have a grown up that tells you great stories, even if they have to read it from a book sometimes. Yeah. There lay the little tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. This pretty little town. Maybe you live in a little town like that, huh? What a cute little town. But there was no food stores, so no grocery stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't use any. The sky supplied all the food they could ever possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Look at that. Could you imagine? We're about to find out. Let's see. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never poured rain. It never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. And sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. Look, it's raining juice or soup and peas and mashed potatoes instead of snow. And look, there's a storm of hamburgers coming in. I don't think I want to get hit in the head with a hamburger. I just open my mouth. I catch one in my mouth. Isn't that crazy? The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. Like he's watching the news. What's going to happen tomorrow? Cloudy with a chance of meatballs, just like the book says. With his dog, he's had enough. He's ready. Yeah. You know what's for breakfast and lunch and dinner the next day, huh? When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. And if there were ever leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. Man, let's see. Look at that taxi cab. It's raining pancakes. Look at these guys. It's like it's raining pie. And let's see, what's this got? Like orange juice, maybe? I think he's drinking out of that umbrella. And what's this one's do? Looks like she's catching something. Looks like she's catching a chicken leg. Let me see. Yep, she's got a plate and she's catching chicken legs. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side-up eggs moved in and followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. Look at the tree. Look, he's getting his juice. Look, the birds have a juice bird bath. Look at this squirrel. What's he doing? Is he having a piece of toast? Look at all the eggs on the ground. Look at the tree. Even the squirrels get fed. Look at this squirrel. He got egg on his head. Look, breakfast time. That's pretty funny. For lunch one day, Frankfurters, hot dogs, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Look at this restaurant. It's a roofless restaurant. And look, the food just falls out of the sky. And they catch the food and eat it. Isn't that funny? Could you imagine it raining hot dogs? It's pretty funny. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times, with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing, with a wonderful jello setting in the west. So it looks like the setting of the sun, but it's a big jello. And there's lamb chops all over the ground. Look at the deer are even eating. Isn't that crazy? The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow, that's like the garbage men, had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and the sidewalks and the lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. They then emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flower gardens. Look at these dogs here on the corner. They're like on the curb. They're so hungry, like, yeah, we're ready to eat. Yeah, all that food's coming down. I think that food would wreck your car in your house. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worst. Look at this. Spaghetti ties up town. Oh no, look at all the spaghetti. Oh no. And it says, record-breaking pasta fell, causing chaos. Traffic snarled on Lower Intestine Street because of all the spaghetti. Oh no. One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. Look, it's raining stinky cheese. You see that one? Raining stinky cheese all day. And it says, this other one says, the next day there was only broccoli. All overcooked broccoli. Ugh. Means it's all mushy and soggy. Yuck. And the next day there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter and mayonnaise. Ew, gross. Look at these kids. They're at a birthday party. They're like, ew, she's bad. Brussels sprouts and mayonnaise and broccoli. Brussels sprouts, peanut butter, and mayonnaise. Another day there was pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could hardly find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. Sometimes they say that the fog is thicker than pea soup, but that's actually a really pea soup fog, because this is a different place. This is the town of Chew and Swallow. Oh man, what happened now? The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. People were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently, and awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. And there were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without seeds. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everybody had to stay indoors, roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. Look at all the rolls. A roll hurricane. Man. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds pecked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. That bird pecking on those rolls. Looks like a J. Peck, peck, peck. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school, and no one could get it off because it weighed so much. So they had to close school that day because a giant pancake landed on it. All the kids are like, yeah! And maple syrup in the streets. But the food's getting bigger and bigger. That's not fun. That's scary. Uh-oh. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with stomach aches. Look at all the cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Ugh. I wouldn't want to eat all that. No, thank you. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. Look at this tomato tornado. Man, what a mess. I don't think I want to live in Chew and Swallow. It sounded good at first, but... oh no, guys. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no school for the children to go to because it was covered with a giant pancake. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. Oh my God. Look at all this destruction. Look at the giant donuts. Look at all that. Look at it's coming. Look, it's raining bacon and noodles. Look at this guy. A noodle laying on his head. It's not like it's just a little noodle. Everything got really big. Isn't that crazy? They had to abandon the whole town because the weather got so bad. Oh my goodness. Raining giant hamburgers. It's like pasta. Look at this guy. He's stuck under the hamburger. You see him? Oh man. They had to leave. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread sandwich style with peanut butter and the absolute necessities with them and set sail on their rafts for a new land. So look at this. They used all that bread that came down and they're making a bread boat. We used the peanut butter to keep it together. And look, they're sailing away in their boat. Getting out of Chew and Swallow. Time to go. Let's see if we can see. They got a Swiss cheese and pizza sail. Look at this shark in the water. He's taking a bite out of the ship. That's what I like about this book. Every time I look at this, there's something new to see. Oh, man. They're getting out of there. Look at that big storm coming. It looks like meatballs and sub sandwiches. Time to go. Is this book making you hungry? After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of the bread. Look, they built themselves houses out of the bread that they sailed over on. Oh, here's Grandpa. He says, The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat had to be cooked. The meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs, and no one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his good night kiss. I like when Grandpa reads his story, right? I'll read the story today. The next morning, we woke up to see a new snow had fallen outside our window. Look, new snow. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sledding down the hill, we saw a giant pat of butter at the top of the hill, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. So that hill of snow, and as the sun coming over it, there's like a bunch of mashed potatoes with butter on it. The end. There's just some mashed potatoes. Maybe that's grits. You ever had grits before? And that's Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I hope you like that book. I got another book about weather. You want to read it? Sometimes storms can be scary, right? Luckily, it doesn't rain giant pieces of meat out of the sky or giant meatballs you hit in the head with a hot dog. This one's called I Am the Storm. I thought this was a really pretty book. This is by Jane Yolen. And I thought that you'd like to read this. So sometimes people have bad storms. Sometimes you have bad storms. There's floods and there's blizzards, and we have to be careful. Sometimes if we're together and safe. Have you ever been in a tornado before? That's really scary. When the wind howled and blew, loud as a train. Like that. Look at that. Wow, that looks super scary, doesn't it? That's why if you hear one or see one, you got to go and hide, right? Get in the basement. When the wind howled and blew, loud as a train, we had a party in the basement with Grandma, reading books and playing games with a flashlight. Because sometimes the power goes out, right? But check it out. They're in the Grandma brought a bird down. They're on there playing games, having fun. They're all safe and sound down in the basement, right? Having a good time. When the wind stopped whirling, as tornadoes always do, we picked up branches and fixed the fence. I danced around and around in our front yard, howling and blowing like the wind. She was running around like a little tornado. See? The storm passes, right? When the ice and snow fell, sparkling like fairy dust on the windows, and all the lights went out, and we made a fire and cooked hot dogs and marshmallows. Look at this family. If the power goes out and it's cold, everybody's got blankets, but they got a fireplace they can use, right? And they cook some stuff in the fireplace, a hot dog. Because sometimes the power goes out, right? We just got to bundle up. If you're lucky, you have a fire, right? When the ice and snow stopped falling, as blizzards always do, we shoveled our walk and Miss Garcia's too. We built a snowman, and I tossed up big handfuls of snow that fell down on my head. Did you guys have to shovel snow? We had that big snow here not too long ago, right? Did you guys have to play in the snow? Sometimes it makes things hard to get around, right? When the fires burned in a forest nearby, Papa drove us to the lake. We camped out and made new friends. I picked wildflowers and tied them into bouquets. Remember we had all that smoke last summer because of the wildfires? If you drive far enough away, look in the background, you can see the smoke. But they went to the lake. Sometimes you get away from it, but sometimes you have to stay inside. But that was smart of Dad to go up in the mountains. When the forests cooled, and the wildfires always do, I brought flowers to all our neighbors, while the grown-ups sucked up the ashes and washed windows. The air still felt hot as I swayed with my arms up, like a slow, beautiful flame. We had big bowls of ice cream to cool down. So people, if there's ash like that, you gotta wear your mask, right? But they're cleaning up. But he brought those flowers down from the mountains for everybody to give them flowers, make them feel a little bit better. Let's see what happens next. When the sea swirled and rolled and rose almost into the sky. Oh, I think this is a hurricane that they had down in New Orleans. Weather can be crazy, huh? We drove away from the ocean to my cousin's house, and we pretended the bunk beds were boats high above the waves. The storm was strong, and I was scared. And that's okay. It's okay to be scared. But when the wind and sea calmed, as hurricanes always do, we went back home. So even if things get bad, they always stop eventually when it comes to the weather, because the weather changes, right? It's okay to be scared. That's right, buddy. It sure is. Nature is strong and powerful, but I am strong and powerful too. You're strong and powerful as well. See? A tree knocked over, but nature's powerful, but so are we. I am like the tornado. I am wild. I'm loud like a tornado. I'm wild like a blizzard. I'm hot like a fire. And I'm fierce like a hurricane. I am the storm. Right? You're the storm. That's right. And when the storm passes, as it always does, I am the calm too. Right? So even if things get stormy in life, and you have problems and you get sad, which is okay. You can be sad, you can be scared. If you calm down and breathe, things usually get better. I thought this was a really good book. It's called I Am the Storm by Jane Yolen. So we talked about tornadoes and blizzards and wildfires and hurricanes. These are things that maybe you've been in or seen, and some of you maybe haven't. But hopefully you can stay safe and stay calm. And talk about more weather with me, all kinds of weather books at the library, okay? You have a good day. Bye.